Let me see.
We got a little
How
something.
can you hear me?
Yep, you're all good now. It's clean.
No, but I can't hear you. Fuck. This one. This one.
Oh,
What?
oh,
What?
no. Ah. This is what this. This is what this.
How
is
about
about.
now?
Is it better?
Wait, who can't hear who? I'm not gonna lie, I'm super lost.
Something is echoing. Let me check if it's my computer.
Pocky,
Probably that.
I can hear you.
That's what it was. It was my StreamYard was on.
Oh my god!
Gosh, that was the oldest trick in the book.
You can see someone got a soundboard, baby.
It only took us a long time to do that.
Hey, we're building. We're learning.
We're building. Dude, without further ado, this is the Pocky Show. Pocky, congratulations.
Hey, yo, my guy. Thank you, dude.
Dude, I don't know about you. I don't really like to talk politics, but we could talk graphs, charts, elections. That shit was a landslide, bro. Like, that was like the world record for like, geez, that was vicious.
Yeah,
did you have to do it to him like that?
I'm not gonna lie, dude. It was definitely like kind of wild. It was definitely one of those things where I was like, all right, now it's time to double down, because like for sure seeing a number like that and like that many people put like faith in you, and like another thing that was like really cool to me is I also noticed like how many people voted like 100% on my name. And like normally I wouldn't talk about any of this stuff, like get into the nitty gritty, but like for me that meant like a lot, that people were willing to just say like, yo, like all in on Pocky. And so like for people to have that kind of faith in me, like it just makes me want to like work 1,000 times harder. Like I was just in fact like DMing Greeny right now trying to figure out something that we can figure out and whip up like the night that like the results came out. Like I think 12:05 I was in a call with 82, like, yo, this is an idea I have, like this is what I want to do. So it's definitely immediately trying to hit the ground running and try to just figure out like fun stuff to figure out in different ways to kind of, really work the watch roll.
Dude, I heard you brought 8270 out of bed to the desk. So congrats. You're off to a good start.
Dude, I brought him. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I felt bad because it meant to be like, yo, like, what's good? Like, let me run this idea by you. And then I think it was like 3 a.m. when we ended up getting off the call. So like, I'm 100% positive. Like, his wife just like went to bed, like, didn't get to hang out with her at all. So like, kind of might have cooked the night. So my bad, 82. You're a real one for hanging.
82 is like, you know that guy Pocky who I do morning with? Well, now we're gonna be doing a lot more.
No word of a lie. So I was lying in bed. We were watching Seinfeld. All of a sudden, my phone rings. I'm like, "There's no way." And I look, and Pocky was calling me. I thought, "Oh, the results." So then I answer. Anyways, he's jazzed. So then I'm like, when your buddy's jazzed, and you can't be like, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna go watch Seinfeld now."
Yeah.
So yeah, it was brutal. Anyways, let's go.
That's awesome.
Mac, GM, how's it going?
Yo, good, man. Just come on up to chop it up with the dudes.
Hey.
Yes, sir. That bowl cut is looking clean.
Yes, sir, it is. It is. Slapped that boss straight on the top of the dome and got the scissors out and executed, man.
Hey, I did that when I was like, whatever, like 7. I was a bowl cut maxi, so don't fade the bowl cut.
A bowl cut maxi?
I was about that life. I was at the 1996 Olympics rocking a bowl cut.
Looking like Coconut Head from Ned's Declassified and shit.
Pure nostalgia, The kind of place where you would rock a G-Shock watch. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I don't know if I
with Crocs.
Lift.
Why pay a barber when you can do it yourself with a bowl and some scissors? You know what I mean? You can slap all your spare change straight into buying NFTs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had no 8270. To answer your question, I had no concept of choice. I don't even know if I was like 7. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think bowl cuts are like you can like ball on a budget. Everybody's out there just trying to hustle. But and this is how I'm going to try to run it. I think a lot of, what's a hustler at the end of the day? It's an entrepreneur, right? It's people that have ideas. They want to build a new box. They either want to innovate the box that we're in or build a new box for other people to catch up to and be like the owners of the means of production.
Was that a segue? Is that a segue, Tony?
Yeah, that's a segue. And I think one of the people that's really been standing out to me in the space, and one of the I don't know, brands, like the tech that's coming out, is surrounding licensing IP. I think that's what a lot of us buy NFTs for, right? Is you're kind of like buying something that you have either limited or full use, like rights to the artwork. But it's something that's pretty complicated, wouldn't you say, Lifts?
I would say, and I just want to congratulate you for somehow segueing that in. So that was a master class for anybody.
Yeah, going from bowl cuts to licensing NFTs.
Bull cuts to bull markets, baby. Let's go.
The hustle continues.
No, but 100%. Yeah, just want to extend a welcome, to everybody who's on stage. It's awesome. Like, this is a community show, so glad you all are here and glad you all joined us. It's obviously an exciting time to be a doodle. We've got the community watch elections, or doodles. I'm gonna have to say this very carefully. The doodles watch elections concluded. We also had the announcement of the doodles watch. So just to be clear, two different things that have gone down. So it's an exciting time. But I want to extend a welcome to our other guest here on stage. So we have Joshua from Sassy Labs, and Sassy Labs is responsible for many things that you guys have seen made by apes, Overpass IP for Pudgy Penguins. So they're tackling, or at least making a massive dent in the NFT IP space. So Joshua, welcome to the stage. Glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you. I'm just gonna let you guys continue and fit in where I fit in.
Awesome.
All right. It's a whole vibe. The bona fide mogul, Richie Rich himself.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Nice coat.
It's a nice coat and a nice hat too. It's a nice hat. Now I wasn't sure if you were gonna. Have you been rocking? Do you prefer Joshua or Josh, or Richie Rich?
Player's choice. Doesn't matter to me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I wasn't sure if you're gonna be rocking the ape or the penguin tonight, so wasn't sure how we were gonna see you come correct. But I think we do kind of want to jump right into it, because this is a big topic. I think a lot of people who bought NFTs over the past several years have said, oh, and Doodles is one of those brands where people say like, oh, the IP is undeniable. But that kind of concept, that term was very unclear. Like, what does that mean? This IP is so good. I can do what with it? When can I do something with it? So Josh, I'll just kind of kick it to you right off the jump. Like, how do you think about NFT IP usage just broadly? And maybe we can kind of just start there.
I actually think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that a lot of people have in this space is they look at it as NFT and or Web3 IP. Better way to look at it is, legacy brands have been curating and cultivating their brand recognition, their IP, their community, what have you, for decades, if not centuries, depending on what brand you're speaking of. And what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of that opportunity has been significantly advanced because of the space that we're in. There's the pace at which you can cultivate a community and create brand recognition, network effects, and things of that regard in the Web3 space kind of showcases the opportunity that exists for the future for IP to be cultivated, developed, and advanced in ways that didn't exist prior. And the biggest problem that I think exists in the space is there's inherent monetary value associated with, floor price and other things that shouldn't necessarily matter, because anybody that has a long-term vision understands that the floor price of an asset is insignificant. And this is one of the things that came up on my timeline with Overpass was somebody was asking questions regarding, why doesn't somebody just buy the asset if a company wants to license it? Well, I'll just use Pudgy's as an example since it's Overpass, but say there's 8,888 items in a collection, and say the IP gets valuable enough, that means that not a single item in that collection will be available for sale, and if it is, it'll be at a significant rate to where you don't have a choice but to license it. So if the brand's doing its job and licensing from the community and building up the brand reputation through various verticals that create opportunity for holders and the brand alike, it means that at the end of the day, with time, the IP will be curated and cultivated in a way to where the value is far greater than whatever price was paid for it, and that it makes more sense for you to delist and not have an item listed to be a, you know, basically an active proponent of the community that you curated and the opportunity that you created in the process, to where why would I sell if I know that, you know, the brand is creating opportunities for me to be directly involved with? You know, it's an opportunity to be part of Marvel before Marvel was Marvel. You know, back when I was, fuck, this is a long time ago now. Like 25 years ago, when I worked at Toys R Us as an assistant manager, there was a Marvel Legends collection where every time it would come into the store, there was only every box had every item you needed to collect, and it would create like a bigger Marvel Legend figure. And I was a assistant manager, and my manager, he and I would pull out the 101 from every box and create the Marvel Legends ourselves. But, you know, basically what I'm getting at is you know, as you further develop IP and create opportunities, like these are the things that can occur in the space to where you actually have ownership of the brand, and the brand has to license back to you to be able to create that opportunity that we were taking advantage of. You know, it could be the new Marvel, it could be the new Disney. Like it's a different opportunity that's never existed before, and it's one of the biggest things that people don't understand is the short-sightedness of floor price, volume, what have you. Doesn't really matter when the brand itself is doing what it's supposed to do, because it creates opportunities that didn't exist prior.
So would you say you kind of subscribe to the idea, like I mean, if I heard you correctly, that these brands are going to continue to grow, continue to get larger, and continue to grow their, now I wouldn't necessarily say, like you said, the floor price value of each individual character or token, but there will come a point when you say, I think if I heard you correctly, that it becomes untenable to maybe purchase the asset.
Yeah, I mean, collectively, there's a greater opportunity that people understand. And I think over the next couple of years, you know, everybody's short-sighted. They look, you know, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, what have you. You know, it took decades to build legacy IP. You know, you're talking 20, 30, 40, 100 years to build IP that is literally invaluable. The IP is worth so much money that you cannot attribute a value to it. And we're so early in this cycle of being able to attribute that IP and give recognition to people that were very early in the community that helped develop and curate it in a way that's never existed before. And I think the biggest problem is people are so focused on short-term gains that they don't understand, you know, like the 5-year vision on what is coming, to where this is why we have the problems that we have. Is you have a bunch of speculative trading, which is one of the biggest things that we wanted to solve for. Was through IP licensing, you can eliminate the speculative trading aspect of the space and create more opportunity for people to be more directly involved and monetize the assets that they own, to where you no longer have to speculatively trade to be able to monetize something, to where now it's more about building within your community and actually understanding that you have something valuable, as opposed to just trying to make a couple dollars off of flips along the way.
Okay, that's interesting, because, you know, I think you'll oftentimes hear this argument when talking about IP usage or licensing in the space. People will be like, well, you know, how many holders are really going to want to do that? And but what I think about like Moonbirds as an example, right? Because when I hear you say this, I think like soft staking in a way, like emotional kind of staking, or it's incentivized in the fact that there's value there for licensing. Moonbirds tried it by just hard staking. There's like, you know, lock it up, whatever. What I hear you say is there may be a small or potentially large portion of holders that may choose to take advantage of this opportunity. It may not be all, but it may be a reason why they're incentivized not to sell, right? Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Well, no, here, I'll give you perfect example of this. So one of the things that inspired me to be interested in IP in the Web3 space is for the last, at this point, I'd say probably 6-7 years. I've been friends with the Uslan family that owns the rights to Batman. Michael Uslan bought the rights to Batman very early on for very cheap before Batman was Batman. At the time that he bought it, Batman didn't matter. He just saw the vision and opportunity for what the Batman series could be. And obviously, over the upcoming decades, Batman became one of the greatest franchises to ever exist. But now you'll see the Uslan family has an attribution every movie, every film, every TV show, what have you, relating to the Batman series because they bought out the rights to the IP very early on. And that's the thing that people don't understand is the opportunity that currently exists is kind of a new generation of that, to where my homie David's father had the foresight to understand that Batman was actually going to become something, did everything he could to acquire that IP. And once he had it, it just kind of did what it did and became what it became. And it wasn't because of the work that he put in to get Batman to where Batman became. It was just the story of Batman is what led the narrative that created Batman to become Batman. So I have a different perspective on a lot of this just because I sat down with them weekly for a very long time, and I know a lot of what they did. And I kind of look at this space in the same regard to where we have the opportunity to have something similar to that, but with a different layer of ownership to where it can be leveraged in a way that hasn't existed prior. Because in that relationship, they own everything relating to the IP, whereas you take a character creation standpoint, we own kind of individual layers to things to where we can all mutually benefit, but also create a network effect to be able to propel something to be the same caliber as that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's kind of missed in this space at the time is everybody's so focused on monetary gain as opposed to legacy, whereas legacy is what will actually bring real dollar value to the assets that we hold. But people don't like to wait. Everything needs to be instantaneous, and nobody really understands how long it takes to develop intellectual property.
No, there's a great point.
Go for it.
I wanted to hand it to Mac because Mac had his hand up. So we got to respect the hands. So Mac, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking to this guy who had the early vision with Batman, like that's some crazy fucking forethought. Like who's out here buying Batman IP before it become Batman? That's pretty hardcore. So what you've obviously sat down, had these conversations with him multiple times over, you said years. How do these guys think the NFT space is going, and what do they think about like Doodles or Apes IP? Do they see something coming with, dipping their toes into? Because they're obviously early to movie IP. So yeah, I'd love to hear how they're thinking about NFTs. I mean, presuming that they don't even play around in this space.
Best way to put it is what we are currently is what they were 50 years ago. It's kind of like a forefront opportunity. Hang on, baby. Yes, baby. It's a fairy, baby. Good girl.
It's a fairy, baby. That'll be the quote of the night. It's a fairy, baby. All right. Well,
sorry. 3-year-old struggle. Yes, baby. 3-year-old struggles. But basically the point is it's a space they don't understand. It's a space that the majority don't understand. And we've been working directly with a lot of Web2 legacy brands, kind of onboarding them into blockchain technology. The biggest problem people have is everybody correlates everything to NFTs as opposed to the underlying architecture that powers them. So the biggest opportunity that's going to exist over the next decade is going to be the blockchain technology itself and how it can drive the future forward. It's not about JPEGs or any of the things that I paid $108,000 for my ape. It's like I get it. We spent a lot of money on stupid shit, but it's not about that aspect of it. We just happen to be early and did dumb shit along the way. But the underlying technology is what's going to power the future. And the short-sightedness of the space is the fact that people don't really understand that's really the narrative that needs to be driven. It's not about NFTs. It's not about JPEGs. Like that part, it's a part of it, but the part that's really going to drive the space forward is the underlying technology that powers everything, which is what we're doing at Sassy with the legal agreements. We're working currently with we actually started working with a couple audio platforms for music royalties. We're doing the IP licensing with Pudgy. We're doing the trademark assignments with Yuga. There's a real estate platform that we're integrating with to bring all legal agreements around real estate transactions on chain, which I think is the proper way to do RWAs. The biggest problem with people trying to tokenize real world assets is if you're still doing legacy Web 2 agreements around those, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I think it's stupid. I see no reason to tokenize a property if you're still doing a DocuSign agreement to transact the property. So we're taking the opposite approach to where, we're bringing all those legal agreements on chain to where that way we can tokenize the property in a way that hasn't been done before, to where all the legal agreements around that transaction are also on chain. So that way it actually makes sense to transact on chain with RWA. But I think the biggest part that people miss is the actual technology itself is what is most significant and what is going to exist for, the next few decades, to where it's .com bubble 2.0, NFTs popped, and now the technology is what's going to thrive because we were able to create the opportunity by using NFTs as, it was basically an early concept use case.
Yes.
Ye old Trojan horse.
At the end of the day, for me, if apes didn't exist, I would never want to put apes on weed packaging. I would never create Sassy to bring legal agreements on chain to facilitate IP licensing. It's if it weren't for apes, nothing that I have built currently would have existed because I want to put bunky pictures on weed packaging.
Right. And like you're saying, part of it, I don't know exactly the team that you built it with, but it's also like, how else would you bump into these people? Right. Like everybody kind of like put themselves out there and we're like, all right, I don't know. I guess like we'll give it a try. And then we ended up in this room and we're like, oh, let's go to a party. And then it's like, holy shit, you do that? You're like, all right, we're homies. Let's do it. It's pretty cool. I know what you mean. Like it just kind of works serendipitously.
Yeah, everybody's experimenting, and that's the biggest part that people don't understand. We like to talk about how early we are, but people don't really realize how early we are. Like the shit that we're creating right now might not be what exists in 10 years, but it's going to be the foundation of what exists in 10 years. Like we're early enough, like we're Yahoo before Yahoo collapsed. We're AOL before people didn't realize that there used to be dial tones to be able to access the fucking internet. We're in that phase right now. It's where everybody's fucking experimenting, creating shit, and then that's the shit that people are gonna build on top of.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of that thing. You're like, well, what is this element that brings everybody together? Because like when you go to these NFT or Web3 events, you're like, wow, I really get along with these people. But like you said, it's that open mind that people have, like, whether they're risk on crazy like perp traders or, maybe they're, just humble artists or whatever. But that idea of like, all right, we need to completely just, be on the bleeding edge of what's going on. That's kind of like that substrate where we all kind of, start, which is cool. I don't know like if people acknowledge that enough, but I don't know, like what, if you recognize real, I guess. And I'd like to maybe just hear from you a little bit about like Half Baked, like your cannabis IP play that you made, and just talk about that a little bit, just to know you as an entrepreneur a little bit.
Yeah, that's basically what created Sassy as a whole was Back in late 2021, I bought my first ape. Saw everything that was going on. I was like, it'd be a good opportunity to create a brand around. I've been in the cannabis space for the last, 15 years or so. Very long time. And it seemed like a great idea. So we launched Half Baked as a collection. The lawyer at the time, after we met out, decided that'd be a great idea to use Google Sheets, Excel spreadsheets, what have you, to track on-chain asset transactions, past transactions. He wanted to hire 10 paralegals, all this shit to track assets on chain. And it was one of those things where it was just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard. And we really need to find a better solution, which is basically what led into Sassy being created was, I was basically lied to at the time that there were solutions that existed to facilitate what I was trying to do. At the time, Jenkins existed, Jenkins of LA. It was a Web 2 solution that still used DocuSign. We were actually supposed to use their platform, and that kind of fell through. And ultimately, it just wasn't an on-chain solution, and we realized that one didn't exist, which is where we decided to raise funds and build out what Sassy is today. And those initial half-baked holders, we did a snapshot, and they're going to be receiving an opportunity in Sassy as well.
Yeah, I hear you talk a lot about, it has to be on chain, has to be on chain, has to be on chain. And you mentioned something about RWAs in real estate. And I remember hearing recently about an RWA real estate company where, and I tried to explain it, and I may have it wrong, but I was explaining to a friend, I was like, oh, like Arizona is a big place. We have some tokenized real estate here. For some reason, maybe it's just because we have a lot of dirt and people, it's easy to tokenize dirt as opposed to, single family homes. And so I was trying to explain it to him. They're like, well, how is it in an NFT? I was like, well, you got to make an LLC, and then the LLC buys the land, and then you put the LLC, on chain as an NFT. So technically the NFT owns the LLC, which owns the property, yada, yada, yada. But it did seem kind of janky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that the current state RWAs, especially for real estate, is probably one of the dumbest things to happen to the space. Everything still transacts in a legacy manner. It literally, it's just clickbait is all it is. It's a buzzword opportunity to where it makes people feel like they're actually doing something special. But I think the current state of real estate assets on chain is one of the dumbest things to actually happen to the space, because when everything still takes a legacy agreement to transact, you're still doing Adobe Sign, DocuSign, what have you, what's the point of tokenizing it? There literally isn't one. It's just to be able to say that you have a token for it. It doesn't matter. There's a real estate platform that we're integrating with in Q2 to where we're doing the reverse of that, so where all legal agreements around the transactions will be on chain, which means it'll actually make sense to tokenize the asset itself, because all the legal agreements around it will be tokenized, so you can properly tokenize the property. But that's my biggest problem with what people are trying to do is a lot of it is just clickbait buzzwords, and that's why people get such a negative stigma around the space, is because there's a very opportunistic nature with it, where people feel like they can do a quick cash grab, use buzzwords, and leverage those for opportunity. Whereas if it's actually done properly, it creates a new opportunity. And that's what we're trying to do, and why we're taking the approach to where once you tokenize the legal agreements around property transactions, you can actually tokenize the asset itself, because everything around it is on chain. Whereas if you just want to tokenize land, it doesn't make sense, because you're still doing the DocuSign. So why would you tokenize that? What purpose does that tokenization serve? Because you're still transacting with legacy agreements for that deed, to where it doesn't really matter if it's tokenized or not, because it's just kind of like a fake tokenization, just to say that you tokenized it.
Yeah, I guess, and I could be way out of my depth here. I don't want to LARP as a lawyer up here or anything like that. But I know there's not a lot of regulation around digital assets, much less NFTs. You say on chain legal documents. How are those enforced? How do courts view them? What are these conversations looking like? Are you speaking to judges, lawyers, like how are they understanding this? If that makes sense.
Yeah, we have a very large political prowess. We have several advisors on both Democrat, Republican side. Everything we have done regarding legal agreements is fully compliant globally, not just domestically. We abide by and adhere to pretty much any standard that something like DocuSign would have to be compliant with. So everything that is done with our protocol is the equivalent of if you were to use DocuSign.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, I guess DocuSign is like enforceable by law. So why would a on-chain signature or something like that would not be? So I guess that makes sense. Tony, looks like you got something.
Yeah, if anything, we have the ability to kind of take it a step further. So we kind of take the Web3 native approach to it, to where we treat the wallet as a signer and the human as the custodian, because at the end of the day, anybody's able to share their private keys. You know, there's no enforcement in that regard. But one of the things is we do we work with Quadrado with a wallet that we created in-house that's super secure, super locked down, non-transactional, developed solely for legal agreements as well as our political platform, to where if KYC is required, we do it through Quadrado. It's associated with that wallet itself, and there's never PII in our legal agreements. It's still just the wallet, and that wallet has that KYC token associated with it. So if there's a platform that requires KYC, it will still just be the wallet address associated for the signature, but that wallet address will be KYC'd. So if that PII needs to be queried later on because of discrepancies, that's fully doable.
No, I love
crossing your T's and dotting your I's, my friend.
No, it's clear that y'all are very thorough about it, you know, and I know we could dive down the rabbit hole, and maybe we will, as far as, you know, where you see all of this going. But I do kind of want to back it up a little bit because of your work with Made by Apes and Pudgies and Overpass. And I know it's funny, you're like these JPEGs don't matter, like, but the Web3 mind can't comprehend this, so we need to take it back a little bit. You know, how do you see different projects kind of licensing strategies and approaches, because you've worked with two of the bigger ones, and I'm sure many more? Like, how do you kind of see the different projects approaching it? We're obviously a Doodle space. Doodles has a different approach as well. I'd be curious your take on that. Like, how do you see the current state of on-chain licensing, things like that?
Well, first off, I think Doodles has a fantastic team. I love Sarah, legal. I love the CEO. I think Doodles has a great team that has a definite community interest in what they're doing currently. But I think in terms of execution opportunity, that in the current state of affairs, I think Pudgy is executing better than anyone. I think the biggest opportunity in this space is being able to have the opportunity to license IP back from holders to provide value back in a non-securitized way. And I think Pudgy is the only one that's really executing that currently. I proposed that opportunity to you and a couple others, and the only one that's really driving that forward is Pudgy. And I think we all see the value add that's creating within the community sentiment and opportunity. I think there's going to be more of that over the next couple years. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier, is everybody's kind of short-sighted in terms of deliverables. I think a lot of this isn't, like a 3 month, 6 month, 12-month opportunity, especially when you're licensing IP back from the community. It's more of a 5 to 10 year play, to where you're able to curate a brand and create something that is globally recognizable. And a lot of people just don't have the patience for that, because they want to see, number go up, what's the floor price, what have you. But I think the Pudgy playbook is something that people need to pay a lot of attention to, because the way that they're providing value back to the community with their toy sales and other opportunities, I think is pretty significant, because while the majority of collections just want to continue airdropping new assets and things like that for people to be able to sell and monetize to make money by being a holder. I think there's a lot more value in being able to monetize the asset that you hold and create real world opportunities for those assets to where, it'd be great to be able to see one of my assets as a toy, for example, especially having a 3-year-old.
Absolutely. Definitely utility having a 3-year-old. Mac, I see you got your hand raised. What you thinking?
Yeah, for sure. Now, speaking about pudgies, I've had some mates who've been diamond handing pudgies for years now. I wish I had listened, but I didn't, stupidly. I'd love to hear your take on...
If it makes you feel better, I bought my pudgy at 16th. I held it for like 8 months, and I also sold it once they got back to 16th, and they ran to 18. So if that makes you feel better, yeah, at least
round trip
share my opinion. 100%.
Yep, it happens, man. I was holding a Mainland Captain at 10 East, and it was just a box with no picture. And I think it was a baby at that point, and I literally had my finger on the mouse, ready to just weep it and go 3 pudgies, and then I didn't. Huge regrets, but we're moving on. I'd love to hear your take on how they, with pudgies, I think one of the biggest things they do to really lock people in for the long term, especially if you've only got one pudgy, is the custom GIF animations. Like, this is a thing that, when a community member is out here and he's holding an asset, and then he rolls into the Discord one day and sees that he's earned the right to have his own GIF, and it's this sweet penguin animation. The hype that, I've seen the hype. They come into the servers and they're like, dude, I finally got my pudgy GIF, check it out, and everyone's popping off about it. Doodle's obviously owning an animation studio, something to think about. Do you think that that's, an easy play for IP to do? And
honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things that made Pudgy who they are is their Giphy account, and it's all based off of holder IP. I even had one made of mine. PP Man did it for me. PP Man, Jesus Christ. PP did it for me on the Pudgy side, but no, I think that's one of the biggest things is you literally, once you get your pudgy, you can go into a channel in Discord and say, this is my pudgy. I want a gift for it, and they'll create it. And one of the funny things was, so I had, I bought the pudgy, Letterman jacket recently when they did the drop, and I had it sitting, on a bar stool in my kitchen. And my fiance's brother was in town at the time for a conference, and he was over at our place, and he saw my pudgy Letterman jacket. He's like, oh, that looks like the gifts that my team is always sending. And he's like, that's crazy. It looks just like it. I was like, yeah, pudgy penguins. He's like, yeah, I think that's what they are. Knew nothing about the space whatsoever, nothing to do with NFTs, but everybody that he knows sends pudgy gifs in their conversations. And then he saw the pudgy jacket and instantly recognized it. It just kind of proves the thesis of what they're doing. Is it's just kind of like a brute force attack of gifts are low-hanging fruit. There's no reason that they're the only team creating them. They just happen to be the only team creating them for holders. And it's just, it's one of those things where they execute it properly, and they just everything, any popular term that exists, they have a gift for it. And the best part is it's all associated with holders. It's always a holder's gift. Like it's somebody that's in the community that's active. Doesn't matter if you post once a month or 100 times a month. As long as you're active in the community, they're happy to create a gift for you using your IP. And I mean, even when I had mine before I sold it, I loved my gift and I used it all the fucking time. I still use it even though I don't own that pudgy anymore because I love the gift that they created for me. And it just creates a new opportunity to be more directly involved with community because you have a closer association with it because of what they created for you. And it was such a simple thing to do, but it creates so much value. Like, it wasn't about if it was monetary value, it just created value. Like, you feel a different level of appreciation and respect when something is created to where, it's like, oh, you actually appreciate the fact that I'm part of your community.
Attachment. It creates attachment. And that's what the space was all about back in 21. Like I diamond handed my subduck so hard because I loved that bad boy. And obviously, you know, projects go one of two ways, man, and the IP stayed the same. It's still epic, but it's about attachment, and what Pudgy's did fully just makes every holder, whether it be a single penguin holder or if someone's got 10, you know that if he's got a gift specifically for that penguin, it's one more little thing in the way stopping him from hitting that list button. So no, I totally agree, man. I think
if I didn't need to pay a dev, well, let me put it to you like this. Best way I can phrase it is I have a $30,000 loan on my ape right now, so I can't sell my ape. Well, I mean, I can, but you know, a far different value proposition. But I had to pay a dev, I had to pay an ETH, and the easiest way for me to acquire ETH was to sell my penguin because it was the one thing I had of value aside from my ape. If I could do it again, probably would have sold my ape instead of my penguin.
Let's go.
Let's
go.
Vigor.
Snap.
You got the boys in it, Yuga. You got the boys in the ape Discord right now, frantically whipping you up a gift, my man. I'm sure
that's fine. A lot of the apes hate me, so I'm not too disappointed.
Well, but I think
they're like it's the one with the jacket and the hat. You know,
yeah.
Come on.
No, Mac brings up a good point about like emotional utility, right? And that like being the one little more thing to prevent you from selling, you know, or listing, right? And I think about this with the gifts thing. It's so interesting to think about. Like you could scroll the Pudgy Penguins Giphy and find the one with the most views, and you could purchase that one. You know what I mean? Like it's essentially a weird little
that was one of the biggest things as to why I bought into apes when I bought into apes. You know, I had my first ape October of 21. The community that existed back in 2021 was basically, the best way to put it, early ape vibes was basically a Harvard final club without going to college at an Ivy League school. Like you had people of all walks of life with all different industries to where everybody was just trying to collaborate and build shit together. Didn't matter who you were or what you did, the opportunity to flourish existed. And that's what early Bored Ape vibes were. Like the community that existed back in 21, early 22 was different than anything. The amount of opportunity, it was just something different. And that's what we all saw. And I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to get back is what existed back then. Because the community then was something special. It was something that couldn't be replicated. It was unique. It was a one-of-a-kind opportunity, and that's why we bought into it. And, you know, that's why I am where I am now. I leverage that community to be able to build Sassy. You know, the majority of people that built Sassy are all apes. You know, it was a real thing and a real opportunity. And, you know, that's what exists in these communities. And the short-sightedness of a lot of holders is the biggest problem, because what a lot of people don't understand in these communities is there's a lot of people that can provide a lot of value that are underappreciated, because people have the short-sighted nature of floor price and transactional value, to where the money you can make working together with other holders should far exceed the value of the asset itself. And that's the biggest problem that people don't understand, because everybody's just too concerned with what the asset price is, because they don't actually want to put in the work or leverage the opportunity. And that's what early Bored Ape vibes was. It was the greatest opportunity that exists in the space, because it was the who's who of opportunity, to where, you know, I could be talking with anybody that I would never normally be able to have access to, just because we both had apes. And that was really the things that was really what made apes different early days. Was, you know, you had people that got lucky that minted them, and then you had people that bought them for 300 grand. You know, I paid 108,000 for this one. And it wasn't about the money. It was about the opportunity you created by spending the money. You had access to people that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. And that community was something special, was something different. And that was the biggest part that people don't understand is, it's not about the floor price of these assets. It's about the opportunity that you can curate with them and the longevity that exists, to where, especially with valuable IP, let the brand do what the brand can do. It's going to be worth something regardless because of that. So the community is the value add that drives it forward, that makes it more valuable.
So then, you know, you go for it, Mac.
Oh shit! I was going to add to that. Just speaking about all of this, this is one of the biggest reasons. I know I seem like I've been around with this community a bit, but I haven't. I only just joined. Shout out to Ash. He's one of my homies. He's up here right now. He got in well early before me. He was trying to pressure me into buying one. He's like, dude, cop one. Then he copped a second. I'm like, shit, well, I'm still watching. But, you know, I was just trying to pick my time by the bottom. But one of the biggest things that got me here to actually, you know, buy a doodle was the whole thing with, you see all of these people in the space speculating on projects that are going to be building out IP around animations and whatnot. And you see them speculating prices up. Some of these projects pre-reveal hit 1 ETH. And it's all like solely because they're talking about potentially dropping an animated series. And then you've just got doodles over here casually buying out a studio and just staying under the radar. I mean, it's fucking interesting that people are still fading it. To me, like, it's really baffling. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Like, is this one of the things you're talking about? Like, floor price matters right
Bro,
now?
I could have bought doodles for 0.80 right after mint, back when they minted. I was ETH poor at the time and had my mutant, and there was nothing I could do about it. But I that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is people fixate too much on floor prices and current values as opposed to opportunity values, and they don't really understand the value of the team that Doodles has behind what's being developed. And I've been on a few calls, and Doodles are doing some really cool shit, and it's going to be exciting to see as it gets executed. It's just the short-sighted nature of the space, because, you know, the majority of people are speculative traders, and it's just all based around what's the current floor price. And, oh, only 2 doodles sold this last 3 days, so that means they're dead. And it's like, honestly, the less transactions you have, the healthier the collection is, in my perspective, because that means that you've actually gotten rid of the speculative traders, and the people that are in there for long term are there, which is why there aren't as many transactions that you want to see. I think it's better if a collection isn't actively transacting, if it's a real product. Now, don't take that for like a, you know, some random pump and dump that went to shit that doesn't transact. I'm not saying that, but something that's real, that's actually developing an opportunity. The lower the transaction volume means the higher the holder conviction in what's being developed. So, I mean, you know, people were even just talking about apes with this the other day. Oh, it was the only day that apes didn't transact in, you know, 2 years. Well, that's a good fucking sign. It means all the speculative traders are out right now, and it's only the holders that actually see the vision and the opportunity that are still holding. It's not supposed to be a high transaction opportunity. That's just speculative traders trying to make money. The less volume that occurs, the better it is for the collection, because it means the speculation is gone. Once the speculation is gone, the real opportunity can exist. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't understand in the space.
Poopy had some tweet a long time ago. People said he was kidding, but I don't believe it. You know, he tweeted, he was like,
Lord, get the fuck out.
No, before that. No, he was like, I dream of a day when Doodles has 0 volume. Like, and basically it was like, they're these illiquid, just art masterpieces.
Delist, we control the floor. That's like the whole concept.
Well, no, that was one of the biggest things that somebody brought that up in a space where I was talking about overpass, and they're like, well, why doesn't somebody just buy a Pudgy? I was like, well, if Pudgy IP gets valuable enough, they shouldn't be able to buy a Pudgy. They would be stuck licensing it, because any holder would be stupid to sell it, because they've created an opportunity to where there's far more value in the IP itself than what you can make by selling it. And if you are able to make that money by selling it, you should be making so much money off of selling it that you should be selling it. And it's like, once you get to that point, then that's when none of this matters anymore. It's all like, again, 10, 20 years is what we're looking at. Everybody's looking at 6 months. Pudgy made $10 million. They grossed $10 million in toy sales in 6 months. Like, that should show the opportunity that exists in the space. Like, if Pudgy could do that with the team that they have and the money that they have, and you have these collections that are raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're not doing that and executing in the fashion that they are, it shows the value of the IP that exists in the space.
Ash, you got your hand raised. What are you thinking?
Yo, first off, congrats, Mac, on the new doodle. Congrats, Pocky. Yo, new watch. I don't know
My God.
I don't know how you're hanging upside down and that poop's not falling off your head. But
hey, listen, I'm a sticky guy. I'm here to stay. You know what I mean?
Dude, and Joshua, congrats on the overpass launch. Chuffed to see it. Haven't used it yet, but dude, I was gonna ask. First off, I think the IP of some of the assets are still overvalued, but we don't have to talk about that. I was gonna ask you, what's the reason for not using like some of the solutions out there that already exist, like ETH Sign? That's the only one I'm aware of. Is
So
that
the
not
difference,
good enough for the stuff you were talking about?
so it's actually funny because I've been aware of eSign since we started developing what we developed, and we have something that's going to be launching in Q2 that I actually kind of hope that eSign will come on board with. I intend to kind of try and drive that narrative, but the difference between what we're doing and what they're doing is we're a protocol and they're a product. So in that regard, they're kind of a DocuSign competitor, and they're only developing a product. They're not really necessarily trying to do anything outside of a product. Whereas what we're targeting is just being the foundational legal protocol for everything moving forward, not just Web3, but Web2. And so we have a couple special cases that we can do that they can't. We can track on-chain asset transfers. So if you do an IP licensing agreement and you sell your asset, we can detect that you sold that asset, nullify the agreement. Is like a low-hanging fruit example. But I say that the biggest differentiation is we're developing the platform for them to operate on, as opposed to us trying to be a competitor of what they're creating. And it's more so we would like them to be a part of our ecosystem as opposed to viewing them as kind of a direct competitor of what we're trying to create. So we're trying to create the foundational tools for what they're developing as opposed to trying to compete with what they're creating.
Right. So like those foundational tools that you see needed for real world assets to like do legal transactions on chain, they don't offer that type of solution yet?
Right. At all. It's more so just a one-to-one competitor to DocuSign. So it's just, I guess you could say, an on-chain version of DocuSign, to where there's no value add for it being on-chain. It just kind of exists on-chain. So
noted. Okay.
Yeah, so we're really trying to create the foundation for somebody for like eSign to operate on, to where they can leverage our protocols as well as other protocols that are developed alongside what we're creating to better their offering. Like, I have no intention of creating an eSign competitor. I have no interest in that. I would rather them be in our ecosystem and build with us as opposed to me build something that competes with what they're offering.
Cool. Thanks.
So I have a question regarding kind of, this is interesting because you're talking about these kind of legal on-chain agreements, and maybe I'm overly bullish, but let's say there's a future, like you said, 5-10 years more from now, where some of these NFT characters are celebrities. And I think we can kind of start to see some inklings of things like that. I think about like a Angel Baby from Hume Collective, things like that. I imagine being a metastar that engages in like music. That's got to be kind of a legal craziness where I could see something like your protocol helping with that. But do you see a future in 5 or 10 years or maybe longer where some of these characters could be elevated to celebrity status on their own?
Yeah, I think a lot of people tried to do that early on with creating, like Twitter accounts and things for the IP and developing around that. I think it's more so valuable when the collection does it itself.
Right. Okay.
I think it really comes down. I think it's a big missed opportunity right now. The collection holds all the power. I think with an individual trying to pursue that opportunity, the biggest problem you run into is if one bad thing happens with that individual, that IP is dead. Whereas if the overarching collection is leveraging that IP, instead of you not needing to curate it yourself and basically curating characters around the IP that exists, I think there's more value add there because it's less predicated on the individual, to where when a company is doing it, there's different principles and things that they adhere to at a corporate level to ensure that you don't have problems moving forward. Whereas my pimp code ape can never be used for anything because I've said a lot of outlandish shit on the timeline that can absolutely be associated with my ape.
Yeah, like there's too much key man risk kind of rolling solo. But
exactly.
Are you familiar with the world builder product that Doodles is kind of touting as something they want to do in the future?
I'm familiar with the incubator. I'm not familiar with the world builder.
So essentially, and this is something that it was talked about in the Doodle Sesh, kind of the stakeholder call a while ago in Discord to the holders, and it was described as an AI generated like storytelling device that can help people craft stories on their doodles, which is cool, for people who maybe don't have that creative knack and they want to tell stories to their doodles. But the piece that was added on the end of that was that they discussed that there is going to be potentially a voting mechanism where the community can vote to elevate some of these stories into canon. And that was kind of lost on a lot of people because imagine you said it yourself at the beginning of the space, right? You're like, buying Batman, we're never going to have these opportunities again. There's not any opportunities, at least as far as I know, and I'm certainly no expert, so that don't hold me to that. But essentially, if Doodles makes it, right, it has to be a hit. That's the kind of linchpin. But we've never had an opportunity in our lifetime to vote a character that we own into Mario, into Pokemon. Like that doesn't exist. And Doodles is saying that it could, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It absolutely can, and that's the thing that happens with collections like Doodles and Yuga, Cool Cats, Apes. Like it's the relationships exist to be able to kind of transcend Web3 to Web2, and that's one of the biggest parts that people underestimate is the opportunity value of holding the asset while the brand is trying to curate opportunity for asset holders.
Yeah.
Like Cool Cats, for example, they own the rights to the IP for Cool Cats. So they can't necessarily license back from holders the same way that Pudgy can because they already own the rights to use the assets. But they can get creative with it and create opportunities to where, a secondary company that they may spin up can license back from holders. So there's a lot of opportunity that is coming forth in the space where brands are recognizing the value, because this is the thing is when you create the opportunity to be able to monetize the community, and what I mean by that is like the deliverables of being able to license IP and drive value back through those monetary means, you create a different type of evangelist. You create a different type of network effect. Like there's no reason as to why that holder would not do everything they can to see that IP succeed, especially if they have a toy being made with their IP. Like it's the opportunities that are being curated right now are things that genuinely never existed before. And that's the biggest thing that people don't understand is it's still a creative opportunity to where people are trying to figure out what the best fit market sample is for that. Is it toys, is it gaming, what have you? Like people are still trying to actively figure it out. Like everything's too new. There's nothing definitive. And people are just experimenting right now, which is, where the "we're too early" meme comes into play, but it's also factual because we are too early and we don't know what actually works and what won't, but we're going to experiment with everything and figure it out, along the way.
Yeah. I mean, like just to put this another way, you look at, let's say, Disney or like a Cartoon Network or, some IP franchise. Like you said, I mean, technically, I guess like you could, if you have enough money or whatever, like buy the rights to like Star Wars or whatever, right? In its totality. But then you look at that from like the person that owns like the Star Wars or Incredibles or whatever, you know what I mean?
Disney. Everything you're saying is Disney.
Like you're right. Like, but you'd think, well, why would somebody want to sell that? Well, I mean, I guess great, sure, you can make billions of dollars and you could just fucking go live on an island and not be anywhere. But then you look at these smaller companies, these startups, the Yugas, the Proof, the Animoca.
Proof is CC0, so
yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that's a bad one. Let's just look at Doodles for all intents and purposes as a startup. You'd say, well, why would they want to, or why would Pudgy Penguins want to technically like break a piece off to somebody else?
I love this question.
Right?
I love this question.
And you're like,
I'm going to tell you exactly why. I'm going to tell you exactly why. This is one of my favorite questions. This is one of my favorite questions I have to answer all the time. Is creating Star Wars before Star Wars was Star Wars. The difference is now you already have 5,000 fans that are advocating for it because they have an opportunity to monetize it along the way. So they have a value add that they're never going to sell because they see the future of this becoming the next Star Wars, and they're in at ground level to where now, fucking Star Wars fanatics spend millions, billions of dollars a year buying merch and toys and fucking anything that they can that's associated with that brand, just as a fan of that brand. Now, that brand that's going to take 10, 20 years to be curated, you're in at ground level and you're actually being paid to be involved with it. You're driving it forward yourself. You're creating that network effect, and there's a monetary opportunity for you to be able to leverage your IP and be paid for being involved. That's the part that never existed until now.
Yeah, I feel like people, like, when they think of that and they're like, okay, right, like, so Pudgy Penguins wants to like give percentage to holders. Why wouldn't they just take 100% as opposed to taking whatever 85%? And like you said, that idea of a fan being able to make income from being a fan will make them the best affiliate marketer that no one has ever seen before because people haven't gotten that chance yet. And that right there,
that's
like
one of the things that we're working on with music right now is the ability to create super fans off of master distributions. So a new album comes out. Now you're able to distribute the master royalties to your biggest fans. And basically it's not a security because of how it's structured. But now being a fan, like say Drake's next album, you're able to own rights to the masters for that. It was one of 1,000 people that won a raffle would be able to be involved, however it's structured. These are things that never existed before, to where now you are already a super fan, but now you're actually being paid to continue being the super fan. Right. You have access to concerts that you otherwise wouldn't have access to, free tickets to events, like the opportunities that are being created in this space are the biggest part that people aren't understanding is as much as we say it and joke about it, we really are very fucking early in everything that's being developed right now.
Yeah, it's like if like you're saying about how a majority of people are like, oh, we're speculative traders. Oh, let's look at the little short-term gains and all these things, right? But then you look at people that realize the long-term opportunity here as like, let me acquire these IPs, right? I need to own these things. Then you also say, well, where does the magic happen? When the brand, when the creators of the IP realize the same thing, and they say, instead of us getting short-term gains of selling 100% of these toys, we're going to take a hit so that our brand in 20, 30, 40 years will have fans like it's been around for 250 years. Like we haven't seen something proliferate like that before. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing, like a sweet spot is hitting, particularly maybe like with Pudgy Penguins and what I believe
that's the biggest thing.
Bound to happen with a number of other companies.
There's a definitive alignment with people that understand that part from both the holder side as well as the brand side, and I think those are the collections.
That's aligning incentives between team and community.
I think those are the collections that are going to excel, and the ones that don't understand that are going to be the ones that just fail the speculation.
Straight up. Ash or Mac, I don't know who it was.
I don't mind waiting. You can go ahead, Mac.
No, you go, bro. You go. I was about to change it up on it, so you go.
Yeah, don't change it. Dude, I was looking at the overpass, and maybe there's more to it. So I was just gonna ask: is the only difference between this and the prior solutions, like, I don't know, like board jobs, I think it was, or something, is it the audience that instead of like directing individuals, you created it for enterprise as like it's a solution for enterprises?
And we're not even going to go down the board jobs rabbit hole because I think that was one of the most terrible solutions that ever existed in the space. It was a cash grab opportunity. It was very opportunistic.
I didn't use it.
I'm a very vocal ape holder. I think it was a piece of shit opportunity where people thought that they would be able to take advantage of holders, and it didn't work out for them, which is why the board jobs account is now dead. But no, the biggest difference is everything we do is on chain. So, for example, when you do an IP licensing agreement using our protocol, so in Overpass with the initial Pudgy agreements, the way that the agreement is structured is to where if you sell an asset, they just pay you a flat $100 fee and keep pushing. One of the things that our protocol is able to facilitate is we can detect the sale of that asset, and we can actually create a 30-day opt-in window for the new asset holder to opt back into a pre-existing licensing agreement and receive that downstream revenue. So there's a lot of things that our protocol can do, and it's really just kind of player's choice of the integration to where if that's going to exist or not. So everything we do is fully on chain. We detect asset transfers and a lot of other things that nobody else can really do, which is what really sets us apart from everything. But it just comes down to what the front end wants to do. So in Pudgy's case, with their initial licensing, they didn't want to go through the complexities of that. And so that's why they baked in just a flat fee in their licensing agreement if somebody were to sell an asset.
Dope. So it's like more of like a agreement as opposed to like hardcore staking. You're not like locking up your assets.
Exactly. You're not staking anything. You're not locking anything in.
I
The
like
agreement's fully on chain, and we can detect asset movement.
And the agreement you're talking about, like, are you guys using Ethereum attestation services or what?
So we're the current V1 architecture runs on Polygon. That's gonna be changing with our V2, which will come out in Q2, but we haven't released details on that as of yet.
Cool, man. Looking forward to learn more. Please do share if there was like docs and stuff to learn more.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a lot of information coming out on our V2. So basically our V1 is a pretty crude implementation as an MVP. Obviously, we're using it for Made by Apes. We're using it for Overpass. It works effectively. It's a very functional product. It's just, it wasn't built for scale. So our V2 is being built for scale. And that's the one that will have a lot of docs associated with it. It's where you can kind of do a deep dive and get a better understanding of what we developed.
Dope, man. Any other collection that reached out to join V1? That is you're not under NDA?
So we're under a lot of NDAs, and we have deferred everybody to V2 other than you and Pudgy.
Okay. Mac, go ahead, buddy.
Sheesh, man, you guys are getting out of control. I'm just a dirty old art degen who likes to try build out IP. But what I can do is this. There's not enough retweets on this space. Hit the fucking button down bottom right because it will slap this shit right on your timeline, and then everyone who missed it can jump in and hear these boys spitting alpha because it's all going straight over my head. I mean, all I'm here for is cartoon doodle and make some content, put out some good GIFs, and I'm sure the account will pop off as it has been. So, yeah, on that note, I want to hear a little bit more about the studio eventually too. I mean, I can change it up or I can just kick back and wait for the time. So I'm going to kick back.
So you want to hear about the Doodle Studio?
Yeah.
I'd also like to hear how FUD is doing.
FUD, you engagement farming son of a bitch.
Hey,
sorry, I had to get back to my I was in DMs. What's
Sounds
up,
like
everybody?
FUD.
I've just been chilling. We got a baby coming in about a month.
I'm sorry.
We're in the nesting phase. If anybody's a parent, we're going to a lot of classes, putting a lot of furniture together.
Is this your first baby?
Oh no, I had my kid during COVID, so I didn't do any of that.
Does the kid have a Made by Apes license?
No, it does have a Made by Doodles license, though. Both me and my wife are Doodles.
We're incubating.
Incubating for sure. You'll get some of your best degenerate activities in those early months when there's no sleep. Because pretty much, man, like you've got to be awake. The wife will want you to be awake, but you're useless to her. So just sit there, just act like
More
you're
emotional
involved.
support, huh?
Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
shitcoin so much.
Give us your
great.
DGen
Yeah,
plays.
that's some real alpha right there.
In the group chats. Yeah, please make sure.
Gonna be awake 20 hours a day. Y'all don't even know what's coming.
Bro's gonna be out here pinging the boys at 3 a.m. casually.
But on a serious note, I'm reading Steve's book. I saw he was in the crowd earlier. This shit is awesome. I mean, like, we like live in Web3 DGen Twitter, and all you read is like win mint, like all this like talk that our parents would never understand and be like, what the hell are you doing online? But you can hand this book where it so simplistically like breaks everything down. I don't know, it's awesome. I'm only on chapter 4, but like I can see where he's taken this road, and it's a great road so far.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. I'm actually, I got to pick up my copy because it's the read for this month's book club. So I got to head down to Barnes & Noble and pick it up.
Dude, looks like the audiobook's out too. I've been going to the Chris Dixon one, Read Right On. Dude, I fucking love that guy right now. Like, if this one is as good as that one, we have mass adoption within 1 year if people just fucking read.
It's so funny. I was talking about this the other day to somebody. I was like, it's so weird that we have like 2 like excellent books about Web3. Like, it's like pick your poison. You know what I mean? Like, who would have thought that we'd be in this world? Like, it's kind of wild.
Dude, DGens don't read books normally.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. What are you talking about? I've been here for 3.5 years. I threw all my books in the bin the moment I found you.
You don't need to read. You're already here, bro.
Who's
you're already here. This is for everybody else.
Who's writing the
who
Everything
apparently
Token thread?
Prefers to read than you go on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, who's writing the thread, dude?
To each their own.
Who's writing the thread for the Everything Token? That's what we need.
ChatGPT all the way.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
You see these threaders out here? That's all they're doing, man. Threads are gone.
Well, and dude, I think to answer your kind of question, Mac, about the studio, it's hopefully, we just found out today. So one of our kind of awesome community members and content creators, Happy, released a podcast with Austin. And this is also confirmed in the Doodles tweet as well. But it would seem, I think if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, that the studio will be out of beta before the Casio G-Shock watch drop. Geez, oh my gosh, this is a tongue twister. So that's only in 10 days, less than 2 weeks.
Bro, are this stuff official or are you just making shit up? Like,
no. So
really?
Well, so the tweet from Doodle says the watch will drop in the studio, and then I'm almost positive. I think I quote tweeted it today. I think that, like, if you look at my page, I think I quote tweeted something by Happy. There was a clip of Austin saying the studio would be like out of beta or in full version. So if I misread that, hey, don't crucify me, but I'm pretty sure that's the deal. So that's really exciting, because we have possibly the full version of the studio on the horizon. And
Austin's also good people that is super undervalued.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, no, Austin's great. I don't know. I don't know what more to say about it, but he's been awesome. I will say this, like, since I don't know, it's been the past couple of months, he's been much more active in like spaces and things like that. And I think the community has really responded well to that. So it's been really cool.
Dude, I need supportive as fuck. Like honestly, I've been into communities like long before I joined Doodle. Some of them are really not as supportive as Austin. That I don't know. I joined like 10 months ago. He's been way more supportive than some others. Love that guy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. But
Inge as well, man. Fucking Inge is legend. He also like took the time to like give me feedback and stuff.
Oh yeah, no,
so is Squinch and Greeny and French.
I was about to call out the product team. Yeah, 100%. Like an engineering team as well. 100%. I think the studio is gonna be one of those things, just to kind of give you the short version, that a lot of people are maybe not grasping at first what exactly it is. And it's the hub for all things Doodles. People are like, oh, are they going to do this there? And then like, no. Everything will be in the studio. And it's going to allow Doodles to own their audience in a way that maybe no other brand has. Like, I'll just kind of make a quick comparison to Disney. Like, I'm an avid Disney fan. We got the Disney app and we shop at the other stores and the thing and like so many different accounts and places. And Disney doesn't know my ass from my elbow, me from Sally. I don't mean anything to them, right? They may have some rudimentary, consumer profile on me at best, right? But the studio is everything Doodles is going to be in the studio, right? People said like, oh, you got to own your email list. That's your money right there. Like, got to own that email list. Like, the studio is that on Web3 crack, like to the likes of which we've probably never seen. And so I think it's just going to be a really, really interesting experience and experiment. And I'm excited for it.
Dude, one thing I kind of clocked what I think it's what Julian's been talking about. I've been trying to get him to read this book called Fanocracy. I think it made me finally understand what he was getting at with like being vertically integrated and like focusing on user generated content. That is like, I feel like Doodle's gonna be like the first type of IP that owns its own fandom. Like if you look at like IP plays, like the fandom is never part of the brand. Like if it's in fact like a lot of them shut them down. Like if you're like, I don't know, like I don't want to make an example because they might not be one of those who shut it down. But hypothetically, if you're like in a Harry Potter fandom and you make like a, I don't know, like a liberal Harry Potter comic, or like if Harry Potter was Indian or something, I don't know, J.K. Rowling might shut it down. But this case, it sounds like they're actually promoting it and like cultivating it and giving you tools to create more shit. So it's like all those alternative narratives that is not created by the IP itself are going to be given life and actually promoted, which I'm super bullish on. I think it'll blow up.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about, Batman earlier in this space and things like that. We can only kind of take these examples from things that exist, but I think about, Taylor Swift with her Eras Tour movie, right? She essentially cut out the studios, right, and made a deal directly with AMC, and she made a bag, and so did AMC on that because she has owned her audience. She did Taylor's version. She owns her audience. Now she's a giga extreme example because she is so huge. But we can look at the other examples we have. It's like influencer marketing, the influencer economy, things like that. And Julian's talking about, he made a tweet today about this movie that had a $200 million budget, made 5.6 at opening weekend. And it's just like, yeesh, like, oh, that's not good, and it's because that's not where the audience is at.
I think what you're talking about, right? It's like where advertisement has went, right? A lot of advertisements have went into these like micro influencers for all these brands. Maybe it's, small businesses, and even bigger brands are starting to do like, maybe not like, oh, it has to be in Kim Kardashian's fucking hand for it to like actually do numbers to like make products sell out with scarcity. But what we're looking at here in the NFT crowd, like you're saying, like with this idea of like, hey, we have an army of them towards doing one general thing, which is proliferating these characters, right? Proliferating the looks of this. Or maybe it's proliferating a watch. But imagine if you actually had mobilized hundreds, if not 1,000 people, right? That's crazy. That have a buy-in to it is what's even crazier, right? Like right now, it's like, oh, hey, use my shampoo. I'm going to send you a bunch of shampoo. No. Like you made a decision.
Well, no,
you
like,
took a
like
risk.
what happened when Kai Cenat was doing a giveaway at Times Square, like, or not Times Square, but just south of it. Like same shit. Is he basically evangelized his fucking viewership, and they came out in such a high volume that shut down New York. Like
it's like Diplo. Like Diplo's like, hey, I'm gonna pull up in a bus and like do a fucking DJ set in some clandestine place, and like 5,000 people show up, and you're like, where the fuck were these people? And it's like, because it's Diplo, right? Like that's like this whole bit, right? Why would a brand want to collaborate with a small startup size thing? Because they got an army of crazy people that will, just kind of launch them.
Well, that gets into a whole thing about like David Horvath says, like, why would a big brand want to collab with you? Be wary. But I think this is super interesting, talking about like mobilizing these communities. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be
bro, that's where the IP cap play comes into play. Like after hearing David talk and like being worried about what happens when you put fractionalized IP in the hands of like 10,000 people you don't know, like then I got bullish on the, what is it, 100K cap on the IP usage or something. So it's like they can curate who actually gets big if they're using their Doodle IP, right?
That's literally why I brought into the Doodles. I'm not even gonna lie. I just love the IP, and I don't care what happens with it as long as the animations keep coming. And I'd love to eventually get my own gifts and lots of them. I think, like, especially in this space, like if you're here, I don't know what anyone's here for. Like, I'm sort of here to make money a little bit, but don't really care about that. I sort of like just vibing out with communities, and like if I make a bit of money, I just take it straight home to my family. But majority of the time I'm just on spaces doing content and having fun with it, and networking with artists and whatnot. So what better way to do it than to leverage an IP, especially if there's an animation studio pumping out gifts for you. It's like, you know what, Mick, you've been crushing it out here with the content that you're just recycling. We're going to do you up 50 gifts that you can just slap on the timeline. And bro, that's enough. People will buy in. People will be like, holy shit, this is so personalized. This is next level stuff. I'm happily going to pay 3 to 5 ETH for that. And that's just solely for the animation.
RIP stickies, for those of you who know. The customized gift thing is huge, but I just want to say it's interesting because we're in this space where we're so accustomed to rewards and points and things and deals, like, and I don't want to come off like I'm LARPing like some advertising guy or whatever, but I'm like, we all saw kind of what Kith did a couple weeks ago, right? They retroactively gave 12 years worth of points to all their loyal customers, right? And I don't know, I had this weird moment where everyone was losing their shit. Like, oh my God, they give points for 12 years of retroactive transactions, which must have been a pain in the ass for sure. But I'm like,
I regret paying cash for everything I bought.
Yeah, nice, right? Yeah, you're right. Can't please every holder, right? But I'm like, we're starting there. It's baked in the studio. It's baked in, like, from the jump. As you advance through your fandom of Doodles over time, over the next 5, 10, 20 years, it's starting with that. And that's where it's like this. It's so interesting to look at things like Kith, and that people are like, this is the craziest thing to happen in streetwear in 10 years. I'm not saying it's that extreme, but that's table stakes for Web3, which is wild. That's kind of a paradigm shift. You know what I mean? Like that you're tracking your customers and giving them points. Like, that's table stakes.
Dude, I love what Keith did. I'm gonna be honest. Like, they took all the best things about Web3 and took out the Ponzi stuff.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, I'm not saying
this is the funny part. This is also why I pay cash for everything all the time, is because I don't want to be able to be tracked to retroactively get points from 12 years ago.
Fair point. Fair point.
Fair point. But maybe ZK will change that. We'll see. Like, because ZK doesn't need blockchain solution, so there's a good chance
the current iteration of it. I'm not very optimistic on personally.
It will pick up. Now, A16 is gonna put more money on it.
Now, Ash, you're a builder. You're a builder guy.
Like, if it relies on Polygon to drive ZK forward, ZK is gonna die.
I discussed something with Austin a while ago on Spaces. Basically, they were saying they look to, and that's part of the studio, is they look to bring all these off-chain activities, not necessarily on-chain, but maybe reward them on-chain in the way of, like, maybe engaging with social posts, creating content, things like that. And it kind of stretched my concept of like a roll-up kind of idea where they could, track all of these activities, and eventually it would settle on ETH or on Flow or on chain in some way or another. So they're definitely thinking about stuff like that, which is, I think, is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, ultimately, like, if you look at the underlying tech, a big part is like data and what people are going to do with it and what you can track, and how that relates to quantifying fandom and rewarding people, and providing value propositions, which that's cool. I mean, you got a side hustle, you got time or whatever, you're trying to generate money somehow, or, get compensated for your time, as time is money, and figuring out cool ways to do it. I think that the blockchain is the thing that's going to enable that for sure. And I think that what's going on, Josh, what you guys are building at Sassy Labs is like bleeding edge, like crazy dope. Like when I think about all this stuff, I'm like, what is the glue that's gonna make it all stick together? And it's like, you do need someone to build the infrastructure to do it so that all these other, like you said, Web 2 brands can come in, or Web 3 brands can break off those pieces to the people that believed in them before they were Batman. So fuck, you guys are really killing it. And big shout out. I'm really glad you got to come through and we got to connect. I hope this, we can just continue this, and you're always welcome to come here and shoot the shit with us about IP, or maybe we'll have to have you come on when we're not like giving you 20 questions, but I think you fared very well. And
yeah, no, I moved back to LA on Friday, so there's the upside there. That started at 6 p.m. for me. If you had tried to do this while I was still in New York, there's no shot that would be on the show right now.
This man has a bedtime.
I have a 3-year-old. I absolutely have a bedtime.
No, but we super appreciate you coming out and answering all our questions. Because yeah, I mean, in how cool is it that we have this kind of live social audio where we can get to meet people like you and hear your stories, and we're not just all out there toiling away in obscurity building these protocols in our garages somewhere. Like, that's one of the other really cool pieces about Web3 is we get to meet you and hear about you now, as opposed to 15 or 20 years from now, when it's the go-to protocol for settling legal action on chain.
I don't know. I see Fidgetal down there. He's definitely building shit in his garage right now. So don't count out the garage builders.
Yeah, you could still do it. Don't get me wrong. The garage. Hey, I'm a garage gym guy. Garage is massive value in my life. So not cutting them down. All right, Tony, we've ran for probably like an hour and a half. So you want to go ahead and just wind this thing down for the night?
Yeah, totally. Mac, Ash, it was really good to have you guys come through as well, and the people that were around. Josh and everybody on the Sassy Labs team that's listening or might listen in the recording. Big shout out to what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for coming through. You guys are really super dope. Oh my gosh, I think Chris is about to get the last word. I'll give it to him.
Wait, Chris Coffee is coming on stage?
Yeah, it seemed like a
pizza ninjas. I'll take care of it for him.
Yeah. I thought I would request.
Tell me you minted Quantum Cats without telling me you minted Quantum Cats.
I was not going to come up to talk about Quantum Cats. I was going to come up to talk about Doodles. Thank you. Nor was I going to talk about ninjas. I wanted to say I showed my wife a doodle the other day, and she's like not into NFTs at all, and she thought it was really cute, and she like really liked it. So that was a win, because pretty much everything I show her that's like NFT related is usually ugly. Like I showed her a Sappy Seal, and she said it looked like what was it? She said it looked like a cat with some type of weird whiskers or something like that. So she vibed with the Doodle IP. And Joshua was good hearing about your product. I've been listening for a little bit. I also have a 3-year-old, and I have a 1-year-old who's turning 2 this month actually. So I know the life very well, my friend.
Mm-hmm. No, awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Chris, because those are the kind of stories you hear all the time about doodles. Honestly, it's like, oh, I showed my kid, I showed my significant other doodles, and they thought it was cute and amazing or cool. And I think pudgy gifts get that same response. That's why we were talking about that earlier. Like, there's some of these IPs that just kind of have that X factor you can't quite put your finger on. But we think, hey, we think Doodles has it.
All right, you filthy animals. This was Ink Tank, episode number 27, where we talked about licensing IP with Sassy Labs. We have a cool guest that's going to come on next week. We're going to be talking with the team from Arcade. Sassy Labs is trying to build the underlying legal layer on chain. Arcade is trying to do that with lending. So, really a lot of cool innovators in the space. Really blessed to be able to, have to knock on people's doors and be like, yo, I want to get you guys in here so we can learn and just, really get to hear the history and try to see where everything is going. So it's what a time to be a doodle, what a time to be in the space. Thanks for everybody for showing up. And we really do appreciate you guys. And we've got a lot of cool shit coming up in the next few weeks. So we'll see you guys soon.
Yo, Tony, wait. Can I put one more question in there before we wrap it up?
Sure.
Thanks. Dude, Josh, I was going to ask, have you considered putting in an incubator proposal to white label solution made by Apes for Doodle? Because I mean, I like the fact that we get to meet the faces behind the projects right now, but I'm also bullish on things like Made by Ape, because if these things do take off, like I'm not gonna know who's behind the Dude Lift gym. And that's why I think it becomes crucial to have some form of like on-chain validation of like what is actually by a doodle holder and what is not. So that would be cool to have it in our ecosystem. Is there any thoughts or consideration around that?
I'd say I'm a big fan of Julian as well as Sarah, and I think there are a lot of things that I cannot discuss on this space, but I'm really excited for what Doodles has coming in the future.
I was gonna say it was pretty unique that like when you're like I'm bullish on Sarah, and I was like, who the fuck says the head of legal affairs is the
like
first person on the Doodles
There's like
team?
5 people bullish on Sarah.
I'm bullish on Sarah because she keeps posting those AR stuff that no one else posts. Like none of the team like let us see the AR stuff. Sarah's the only one who posts them.
It's on Snapchat. Just go on Snapchat. It's on there.
Really? I had no idea, bro. What did you tell me?
Anybody to use. It's been on Snapchat for like 2 years.
Bro, I thought it's alpha. I'm like, fuck yes, Sarah. Keep posting this.
Nah, just go out, use Snapchat, and then tag Apple Vision Pro, and then it'll moon. So go for it.
Oh gosh.
What's the offer with the Snapchat, man? This would be a good in with my wife of why doodles are cooler than the Rarotonga trip that we didn't go on.
I think there's a filter where it just like has Hap in his spaceship like going around, or maybe there's an ape in a spaceship. I'm assuming you search the Doodles or Doodles NFT, something like that. I haven't used it. I don't have Snapchat, so.
Yep, Boomer, me too. Don't have it, but I'll be shilling it to her.
Go for
All
it.
right.
Go for it.
That was a good question, Ash. It sounds like we're not going to get the secret Krabby Patty formula, but they might be in the kitchen.
But bullish on Sarah.
Very bullish on Sarah.
So you